move across to Kieron. Kieron, please.
Yes, so this is the big topic of the moment, especially with Eid right now. I know there'll be Muslims all over the world thinking about what's going on in Gaza, what's going on in Palestine. I will point out the Liberal Democrats, not for the first time, were on the right side of this, and they were on the right side of this very quickly. Called for a ceasefire, not a humanitarian pause, but a ceasefire very quickly. And I don't know whether you heard Layla Moran talking about this and how her family was trapped in Gaza and how she approached it. She approached it from a position of love and trying to avoid as much pain as possible. I will fault Fleur on this. She did have an opportunity to do the right thing as your representative for Putney. She did have the opportunity to vote with her conscience, and she chose not to. She chose to defend her political career and abstain. So I
Well said, well said.
But yes, there needs to be an immediate ceasefire. We all know that. We all know this is appalling, and I would say the Liberal Democrats, yet again on this, have been the right political party. Thanks.
Thank you, Kieron. Right, over to the Conservatives.
This is one of those issues where Labour and Conservative are very similar in the view that we take. I suppose the difference is that we don't have to do damage limitation, which is what Labour are having to do at the moment. Look, like many of us here, our first sympathies were, going back a bit, probably more towards Israel because it was a democracy like ours. But as obviously we felt the horror of October the 7th, and it was horrific. And we could say our own situations there played out if we were in that country. However, and this is where Hamas were quite clever, they were able to create a situation where they goaded Israel into behaving abominably. Absolutely abominably. Now, David Cameron has been one of the most outspoken Western leaders against this, against what Israel's done. And of course, I support him in that. Israel's gone too far, way too far. It's become the baddie in this awful situation. And so, clearly, we are trying to find a way of this becoming a sustainable ceasefire that can have a two-state solution where Hamas is no longer the governing party in Gaza, which is what they've had undemocratic control for so long. It's not a healthy outcome for the people there. And that's who we have to be focused on, the health and welfare of people in Palestine. And of course I am.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you raised this because I think the election has taken the focus away in the UK and in the media from the horrific acts happening still in Gaza. I've been a Palestinian activist for a long time before I was an MP, working with Labour Friends for Middle East and Palestine. And I was there in the West Bank actually the week before October the 7th happened, not knowing what would happen a week later. And I've been back in February as well, travelling with Medical Aid for Palestine and with Layla Moran as well, in a group of cross-party MPs and working very hard on this. On the night that there was a ceasefire vote back in November, it was a very, very hard decision for me, but I voted for the Labour amendment, which was to cease hostilities, but also to end the illegal occupation of the West Bank. It went far further than the motion that was on the table. And Labour have been calling for a ceasefire for many, many months. But also for the international law to be upheld. And international law is being eroded through this as well. And our standing in the international community, you can see that we're weaker now because of all that's happened, because of Brexit, because the Conservatives have eroded our state in the world. We have less to say. Very briefly, I also support the arms sales should be halted. There should be a surge of aid. The illegal settler occupations in the West Bank should end, and there should be recognition of the state of Palestine. And Labour will do that, but the government, the Conservative Party, have refused to recognise the state of Palestine. But you need two states to have a two-state solution and long-term peace. And I will continue to work cross-party with others and with those people in Palestine and Israel to have long-term peace.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
In the 1980s, I worked with people fighting against apartheid. South Africans would come to London, we'd take them round to visit on demonstrations and events. And Nelson Mandela said that Israel is an apartheid state. And in many ways, it's worse than South Africa, because the South African's apartheid state needed the cheap labour, whereas Israel does not require the cheap labour. So they've basically created concentration camps, open concentration camps, and now they're bombing the people there and slaughtering them. And when October the 7th happened, it wasn't out of the blue. This has come right back to the Nakba in 1947. The Israelis have been occupying land, seizing land, driving the people out, slaughtering them, imprisoning them, mistreating them, and barbarically treating them as unequals. And there is no, in my opinion, there is no two-state solution. There is one-state solution, and that is that the Palestinians and Israelis, or the Palestinians and the Jews, live as equals with each other. As equals with each other. Without the dictatorship of Netanyahu and the Zionist monsters who not only control Israel, but they have enormous influence in Britain, particularly in the Labour Party. Particularly in the Labour Party. That's why Corbyn was removed.
Well said,
Thank you very much. And now it's over to Fergal.
Shame on Fleur.
Yeah, it's just absolutely shocking. You know, we're watching genocide unfold on our screens, on Twitter, on television. We've all almost become like numb to it. You know, watching dead bodies of children, people just getting slaughtered. You know, it's I don't know. It's just like this is probably the worst of humanity we can actually ever imagine. Really, and we're just not doing enough. Like we should have had an immediate ceasefire. Greens called for immediate ceasefire. Boycott. We need to boycott Israel. What's going on with the Israeli government? We're still selling arms to Israel. How is that possible?
Shame on them.
Do you know what I mean? It's, how on earth can we be manufacturing weapons in this country and sending it to a country where the president is now up for crimes of genocide? So, do you know what I mean? So we just say immediate ceasefire, and I don't know what the solution is. Like it's you know, we just need to stop the war.
Okay. Thank you very much, very topical, and thank you very much for all your comments. Right.